Hey y'all! Well, Good Friday's here early this year. Saw Amazon had these Klipsch RP600M IIs on sale, and I decided to pick up a pair. They were 450 bucks-ish, and yeah, they're normally like 650 or 700, around in that range, and so they're about 40% off. And I've been kind of waiting for these to go on sale. I think most of you that watch my channel know I really like the earlier RP600Ms. These are supposed to be the improved version. Seen reviews on them, and I was really curious if I'm going to like the sound of these versus the other ones and what the differences are. And at this price, I decided to pull the trigger and buy a pair of them. So let's do an unboxing and see what these things look like. So, gonna carefully cut the tape and see what's inside the box. And I did decide to go with the ebony black version because that's what I had last time. And I really like the way they look versus the wood grain ones. And let's go ahead and do my normal flip the box over and then pull the box off of the top. And here we go. Whee! And it's like these have a little cork thing on the bottom of them versus the little rubber feet, which is a little different. And here are the two grills. Like it's got a different connector on the back here than my earlier ones with jumpers. Let's get all this stuff out of the way and then take a look at what we've got. And they look like they have the same rear facing bass port that the old speaker had. And actually, I'm going to go upstairs and grab my RP600M Is so we can compare the two. So here's the two next to each other. Looks like they've got the same size port, but maybe they've moved it up a little higher on this one compared to this one. Don't know if that's going to have any difference in the sound. You can see here they've got jumpers across it if you're not going to bi-amp it, where this one had the little strips. And this was kind of an inset deal where the crossover was attached to this plate. And on this one, the jacks are just into the material of the cabinet itself. But they basically look like they're about the same width, height, depth, all of that kind of stuff. So let's turn around and look at the fronts. So it looks like they're using the same driver in both the speakers, but you can see the difference in the horn or waveguide that they're using for the tweeter. This one's got a larger one. Not sure how that exactly impacts the sound. I know from the reviews I've seen, this one doesn't have the dip in the mid-range that this speaker's supposed to have, or at least in the testing that I've seen. When I measured these myself, I didn't see a huge dip, and I wonder if there's some sample variation in the crossover parts that makes some of these have a bigger dip than others. The other thing about these speakers, I feel like they're really designed to be put in a very specific place in the room. And one of the reasons I think that people say these are really bright sounding speakers is they're putting them out in the middle of the room or up on stands away from the wall. And when you do that, and they're not like in the corner of the room, the bass port on the back isn't reflecting off the corner of the room to reinforce the bass, and so they do come off as being too bright. And where I have mine situated in my bay window, it allows the bass to reflect and come out into the room and really reinforces the bass response that these have. And so room placement with these speakers is critical to getting them to sound good. And until I plug these in and listen to them, I can't really say how much difference there is between the two. I thought it would be fun to just kind of do an unboxing video, show you what that looks like. Let's see what the grills look like too. I haven't looked at them yet, but I'll be shocked if they've changed those. And the previous ones were little magnetic guys, which to me did kind of calm down the upper end response. So if they do seem a little bright, you can pop the grills on them and that will chill them out a little bit. And grill sits on them like that, but I prefer to listen to them just naked like this. So probably not going to be using the grills. So let me go plug these two guys in and take a listen to them. See what the difference is between the early version and the later version, at least to my ears, with my amps. And then finish up the video with that. I do use isoacoustic pucks under them. That really helps the bass response, especially if they're sitting on a common like platform, board, desktop, whatever you have them sitting on. Maybe if you've got like a concrete floor and you've got the speakers on stands, might not make as much difference. I'm not sure, but they're not real expensive. Some people say they're pretty expensive for what they are, but for $100 for the speakers that are this size, I think it's a worthwhile investment. I'll put it in the link below. So let me go listen to these things, and then I'll report back on my findings as we wrap up this video. Okay, so here are the rev measurements on the two speakers, and this is with the speakers in my normal position, which obviously cranks the bass up where they're placed, which I like the sound of. Again, personal preference. I know some people like a more neutral bass response, and I like the bass cranked up. I like the way it sounds. So anyway, that said, here is the RP600M. This is on 1/2 smoothing, which I think gives a better representation of just kind of the average frequency response of the speaker. And we'll look at it with 1/6 smoothing too in a minute. But as you can see, we got this big spike between about 50 hertz and 100 hertz, peaking at about 80, and we got about, it's like about 8 dBs of boost there, which again, something I like the sound of. So anyways, we follow along the graph here, and obviously if this was just put out in the middle of the room, this would probably be flat, or more likely you'd have a straight line kind of between here and there, and then it would just roll off. So as we come along here, we have the notorious dip between 1 and 2K hertz that these speakers are known for, and looks like it loses 2 or 3 dBs of that range, and then got the little bump up here on the top end, which another thing these speakers are known for is sounding a little bright. But in this range from here down to, 1K, 200 hertz, where most of the music is played, that's what we're looking at. So here is the newest version. And just like is reported by other folks, the dip is gone, and it's actually a little boosted there. But then they roll it off on the top end, and the dip that was here is now from 4K to 10K. And honestly, I'm not really hearing anything up in this range. So for younger folks, they're probably going to hear this range up in here from 9 to 20K. My hearing rolls off pretty severe at 10K, and so I'm not going to hear any of this. Again, this is you got to take into consideration your age and what your hearing's like when you're looking at this stuff. But I do have a lot of sensitivity in this range, and I am going to hear this missing. And I'll get into in the final evaluation, but I feel like that when they filled in this area right here, that they have killed off some of the detail that you hear in other parts of the frequency spectrum, especially this part right up in here. And then in here, we've lost a little bit of the upper bass from the old speaker to the new one. And I don't know if you can hear it. My neighbor blows leaves constantly in his yard, so hopefully you're not hearing that. So let's look at 1/6 smoothing, and you can see they follow a lot more closely, with the new speaker being a little lower in this upper bass region, as you can see, along in here, and then it fills in this spot here, and then it rolls off like this. And I'm pretty sure a lot of these spikes we see in here is probably just the room response, and it's why they're identical, especially this big jump here, which again, I like the sound of. So anyway, that kind of shows you the difference between the two speakers, and let's do a little final evaluation. Well, we've done the objective testing. Now I'm going to give you my subjective opinion. Now, obviously, this newer one is more natural or neutral sounding, and definitely got rid of that characteristic dip in the mid-range between 1 and 2K that, of course, all the reviews talk about, and all the guys measured them. You could see in my measurements it was there. It's also a little less bright on the top end. But after sitting down and listening to both of these with music, I'm keeping my OG ones. To me, these just sound flat. They're not exciting to listen to. I don't really get the same enjoyment. They don't sound as rich to me. And I think these have a little better upper bass, between like 200 and a K. And then these sounded a little more kind of almost annoying or fatiguing in that mid-range, where these have a dip there. And yeah, I know these measure better, and I'm sure that Klipsch, saw these reviews and decided, hey, let's come out with a new version that's got a flatter frequency response and kill off some of that top end brightness. And to me, they just don't sound as good. I've always, back when I had a graphic EQ on my old solid state stereo, I had the little smile going where I had the bass cranked up, the mid-range pulled down, and then the top end pulled back up. And that's what these sound like, without having to EQ the system. And I'm sure I could, insert an EQ in and start playing with dialing these in to sound more like these, but why spend money to do that when I've already got speakers that I like the way they sound? And these are on sale right now. They're about 40% off. These were just a little over $400 right now, and I'll put the link below if you think you want to give these a try. But I'm mailing these back. I'm going to box them up this afternoon and send them back to Amazon. And if I have to pay a little restocking fee, don't care. I just can't see using these when I have these. And I did give these about 20 hours of break-in, maybe a little more. One day I was off doing errands and I just set the DAC, play music, turned it up pretty loud, just left. And then came back, still playing. So it got all day of them playing. Then I listened to them for 2 or 3 more evenings just to make sure that they're at least broken enough to be able to tell what they're going to sound like. And yeah, maybe with another 100 hours, they're going to change a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be anything drastic where I'm going to fall in love with them. So, yeah, I know that's maybe not what a lot of other reviewers are saying. I also feel like these have a little more air on the top end. You can see that in the frequency response, and I can hear it. And given my age, my hearing over 10K is pretty much gone. So anything that's happening past that, I'm not going to even hear. You folks with younger ears, y'all might hear that boosted treble that these have, and that could be fatiguing. So I'm not going to say this review is for everybody, but for a lot of my viewers that are in the same age demographic that I am, these sound better to me. Now, these have had a jazzed-in capacitor upgrade for the film cap, and I don't know if that's part of what I'm hearing. There's definitely more detail in these speakers that this one's missing. And obviously, if I'm going to be returning these, I'm not going to open these up and start playing around with the crossover. But I'm also wondering if that boosted or that flattened out mid-range is then covering up some of the detail in the upper mid-range that I'm hearing in this speaker. Like piano notes and stuff just sound crisper. And like I said, it's more spunky and enjoyable to listen to. So there you go. Sending these back. Kind of glad. I was hoping that they were going to be an improvement, but on the other hand, I'm kind of glad I can send these back and get my $400 back and maybe spend it on some other thing. We're always looking for an upgrade in our systems, and I was hoping these would be one, and I just don't feel they were. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Thanks to all you Patreon folks. Thanks to you folks that use my Amazon affiliate link to buy stuff like this. It definitely helps the channel out. And thanks to you folks that make donations at the website and send me gear to review. And until the next video, have a nice day.